Kumnandi ekhaya.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Well, we start here this evening. One of the largest surveys undertaken in South Africa to look at the financial well-being of households has found that women and the middle class are under the most financial pressure currently. According to DebtBusters Money Stress Tracker, most people in South Africa spend 30% of their income paying off debt. For more on what this latest report tells us about the financial well-being of South African households, we are joined by Nosiphiwo Nxawe, at DebtBusters. Nosiphiwo, thank you very much for joining us to talk about this latest survey. You surveyed over 14,000 people and found that 70% of them say the financial stress that they have is having a huge impact on all aspects of their lives. Why was this important for this particular survey? Apologies.
Thank you so much for having me. Apologies for that. I think it is very important for us to understand the climate and the pressures of what South Africans have been going through, as our economic climate has been quite imbalanced. And with the inflation and as well as interest rates increasing, we are hearing and feeling that there's a lot of anxiety and pressures that people are feeling when it comes to their finances. And of this, we have seen that when it comes to work, health, and as well as work, it is affecting them when it comes to, the type of anxieties that they feel.
Another interesting take is on women, and they have overtaken men as having said to be feeling under the most financial strain compared to men. This is different this time around because this is usually something that has been attributed to males being under the most financial stress. What has changed?
I think with Women's Month coming up in August, it's quite a topic and quite relevant when it comes to South Africans. As with the survey, women have generally been more stressed about their finances, with 30% more women who are more likely to be stressed regarding their health. 20% more women were worried about paying off their debt each month. Now, there are more women-headed households, I think, in South Africa, and women have assumed and taken the responsibility for monthly expenses when it comes to your groceries, expenses, school fees, transport. And I believe that women are also more outspoken about the anxiety that does come with ensuring that their families are well taken care of, and by maximizing their efforts with the limited financial resources that they do have.
Something else that we have seen time and again, and Nosiphiwo, is the middle class, particularly as far as the findings of your report also includes how young people are dealing with financial strain. What are the findings in this DebtBusters Stress Monitor?
I think it's not surprising when it comes to the level of stress that when it comes to age brackets and as well as income levels, it does have quite an impact. And if we're looking at our under 25s, for instance, they are at a high 75% when it comes to how they feel about their finances and the anxiety that comes with it. And if we look at when it comes to income brackets, between the lower middle class, between 6 and 12,000 Rand in earnings, they are feeling 78% in terms of pressures. Now, we can always look at, again, the economic climate and how the cost of living has drastically increased. And people are finding themselves in a corner whereby they're trying to, find alternative ways on how best, number one, to eliminate or reduce their expenses. And number two, they're finding more options in terms of available solutions out there.
And from this report, more worryingly, is that those who are able to earn an income say they could consider taking on more debt. It's not advisable. Rather, what are their options? Because there is a trust deficit clearly between the consumers and debt counselors such as yourself, because they are not choosing debt counseling as their first port of call, as the survey has found.
So I think consumers are trying a number of ways to try and deal with the stress that comes with finances. And I think the first thing that we need to understand and look at is our own bank statements, pay slips, expenses, and what the needs and wants really are when it comes to how we are spending. And we were working with Diane Salters, who is a psychotherapist, and she advised that based on the results, there are respondents that might feel frozen, meaning that they're feeling stuck and they don't necessarily know where to go or the first step to take. And secondly, will be flight, meaning that they may not require or think they need debt counseling. Or lastly, that they might freeze, meaning that they do nothing up until the situation worsens. And all we can say is that number one is to speak to someone who is trusted about your finances so that you're able to open up and get a solution at a much quicker pace before they find themselves in a much worse off position. And with debt counseling specifically, I think what we do is we educate and provide knowledge to the client with regards to how expensive debt can actually become, because we reduce the interest rates and as well as, strip out fees. And more so than anything is we are allowing them to have some free funds at the end of the month because we are reducing the installments. So it may not necessarily be a solution for everyone, but we do believe that with the survey, there were 58% people who said that they don't need debt counseling. However, there are other solutions, I think, that South Africans can take on their end that will, align with their affordability.
But generally, what are consumers most concerned about when it comes to their finances? There has been that particular findings that you have in this report that point to the most concerns that they have as far as their financial well-being is concerned.
Yes, so the one that rates the most would be, people running out of money before the month end. And that is how we get to a culture whereby, we are living month on month and we are trying to survive. And we end up taking, month on month or payday loans, in order to survive the end of the month. But then, you receive your income, but then you have to, repay that debt. And it becomes a vicious cycle. And when it comes to, secondly, paying off their monthly debt. So finding the funds available to actually ensure that with the credit providers or the debt that they do have, they are keeping up with their monthly installments. And lastly, I think I'm just going to name the top three. It's inflation and living costs. I mean, with the economy currently in South Africa, it's putting South Africans at quite a stress and in a corner. And I think what we're trying to understand is what solutions can we actually provide South Africans, not necessarily only debt counseling, but how best can we advise them in terms of the best way to deal with their finances.
Nosiphiwo Nxawe is the manager for collections at DebtBusters. Thank you very much for your time talking to us there about the latest trends according to the DebtBusters money stress tracker, which has found that women and the middle class are under the most financial pressure currently. Well, on that note, let's take a look at how the JSE has performed today.